Sul, I'm back with another easy everyday crochet tote bag. This one is in honor of The Sims 25th anniversary. I've been playing The Sims since day one. Yes, I'm old. And in this video, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the whole bag, and then I'll show you the first few rows of where the chart begins, and I'll show you the strap, how to put the whole bag together, and how I did the lettering. If you just want the chart, go to 2 minutes and 39 seconds. I used bulky size 6 yarn for all of the colors, 6 colors in total. Main color, I used Bernat Blanket in Twilight. I used 2 skeins, but only a little bit from the second skein. The rest of the colors only use a little from each skein. Bernat Blanket white and black, and 3 different shades of green. I do suggest using Bernat Blanket for all the colors, but I used Lion Brand Hometown in Green Bay, Oklahoma City, and I think it was Montpelier Peacock. Any size hook from 5mm to 8mm will work. I suggest the 5mm. I think it turned out the best. And of course, a tapestry needle and something to hold your panels while you stitch them together. My bag is 6 colors, all single crochet, 2 panels and a strap. Each panel is 31 stitches wide, plus 1 on every row for a turning chain, 40 rows tall. The Plumbbob is 27 rows tall. I did 9 rows of main color and started the Plumbbob at row 10. At the top of the Plumbbob, I did 4 more rows of main color. The strap is 5 stitches wide plus 1 turning chain on every row. I crocheted 3 sides of the bag together and then continued with the yarn to start the strap, then single crocheted the strap to the other side, making it no sew, but you can sew the panels and the strap on instead if you prefer. Make sure your tails stay on the wrong side, which is the side that will be inside your bag. The text at the bottom, Sul, means hello and goodbye in Simlish, the language of the Sims. I did this in the cross-stitch method. Using a tapestry needle and the Bernat white yarn, I make 2 stitches cross each other, forming an X in 1 stitch space. The letters are 4 stitches wide and 7 stitches tall. I started in the middle underneath the Plumbbob and worked outward. If you do it like mine, you will have 1 stitch on either side of the words left and 2 rows left on the bottom. My letter's top row is even with the bottom black stitch of the Plumbbob. I use graph paper to plan my letters out, so feel free to make them look different or maybe even try it in script if you're feeling fancy. The Plumbbob itself is 27 rows tall and 15 stitches wide. You can make your panels or whatever you want to put this on any size that you want. That's the base stitches for the Plumbbob, so as long as you have that 27 rows high and 15 stitches wide, you can make the rest of it however big you want. If you want to make it long enough for the letters underneath, do that like the way I did, or you can just make a square, or you put it on a blanket or a sweater or whatever. This shows you the difference between the 8mm size hook and the 5mm size hook. I think the 5mm turned out better. The 8mm is one I made first. It's also been used for about 3 or 4 weeks in this picture. So, and the strings on the inside hold together and don't come loose or anything. So it's working out great with no liner. So I am doing a bag with the Sims Plumbbob on it, and it's going to be the loading screen background, and the and I think I'll put Sul in words on there. We'll see about that, but the Plumbbob for sure is going to be on there, and just my normal like tote bag rectangle. This one's going to be more of a rectangle than normal, but just rectangle and a simple strap and no lining. I'm not into the lining. And that's it. We're going to be doing graph crochet, and we're going to be using the intarsia method so that we're not carrying the yarn behind the piece, because it's going to be inside the bag and I don't want to get it all tangled and messed up. So we're going to use a separate bobbin of yarn for each part that we're doing for each section. So all the white is going to be the dark blue. So I have the dark blue for this side right here. And then I have the black, which will be this black, and it'll be the section go all the way up. And then I have the green, which is going to be this green here. I'll have the white, which will be further up after a few rows, but it'll be there. And then this is going to be the middle green, and that'll start after, let's see, I'll put on the 4th row, and that'll be the middle section. And then this dark part will be for the dark accent throughout there. And then this part for this section green, the black for this black side, and the blue for this whole blue side there. And you do the separate bobbins so that you're not carrying the yarn behind it. You're just stopping whenever you change the colors. You're just leaving that yarn where it is and carrying it up in the next rows, and then carrying it up instead of like behind the pieces, so it's easier to hide and so that it looks nice from both sides, but also so that it doesn't have the strings all loosey-goosey in the back for it being an unlined bag. So it's gonna look pretty good, and I'm pretty excited about it because I like doing I don't do graphs very often because I don't like having to pay attention and count, and you do have to pay attention and you do have to count when you do any kind of graph crochet. But I really like this idea for the bag. So, and I really need another bag because if you watch my sandworm video, the strap on that sandworm bag is killing me. And not physically, I mean, the fluff is still coming off. It's been weeks, and I use it and it's still coming off. It is a nightmare. So I need a new bag, and this is the one I'm gonna do. I'm excited. Woo! So this graph that I made, the Plumbbob itself from the black tip to the black tip is 27 rows. So I started my panel, my first panel that's gonna be, I guess, the back of the bag. The panel is 40 rows high, which it kind of comes out a little bit long. You can see it's a little bit like longer, more rectangular than I normally would do, but it's because the Plumbbob is narrow and I just want to make sure it had enough room. Anyway, I think it'll look okay, and it'll still function fine, of course. So I put 40 rows here, and I'm gonna go up a few rows from the bottom before I start on the graph. When I started this bag and started recording, I didn't know if I was gonna put the letters at the bottom, but I did. So what I did was I crocheted 9 rows at the bottom and started the Plumbbob on row 10. After the Plumbbob, I did 4 more rows of the main background color. This leaves just enough space at the bottom for the large letters like I did, but feel free to change your text or leave it out altogether and make a shorter bag. The panels of this bag can be any size you like. This graph can also be used for anything else, like a blanket or a sweater. You can even use this pattern and make each pixel a granny square. So like, go nuts with it. Anyway, however many rows you go up before you start your graph row, just pay attention to that, and you can just ignore that on here. But your Plumbbob from point to point is 27 rows. So however many rows you want to put underneath it and above it, it's up to you. So hopefully you stitched 31 long instead of 30 like I did. So I'm just going to go over 15. You can also go over 15 and then you'll have 15 left. I will only have 14. Okay, and the key thing to remember with tapestry crochet is to, when you get to one end, make sure you go back. You're looking at the pattern going back this way, not starting from this side. So you're gonna go up like a snake through your pattern with each line. So just make sure that you're paying attention to which side you're on, where you're at, which side your piece is toward you, the wrong side or the right side. Keep the tails on the right side, wrong side that you choose, and just be mindful of those things, because that's why tapestry crochet is more time consuming, I think, and more difficult, is just because you have to pay so much more attention. So I'm at my 15th stitch, which, like I said, I should have done 31, but I did 30, so I'm going to go 15, and then I'll have 14 stitches left. Try to do it with an odd number so that you have a direct middle stitch. So I'm going to finish my stitch with the new black bobbin, and you just pull it through and make sure you tighten your blue that you're leaving behind, and just drop the blue back there. And then you can so that's it, you just leave it back there. And then we're going to just do one black stitch. So we'll actually just do it like that, and then immediately finish it up with the blue. So we're gonna pull the blue back up finish out the row with the blue. Make sure you tighten the black back there. And then just finish blue. And when we get to maybe about the, I don't know, I think maybe about the third or fourth row, probably about the fourth row in, when it gets wider right here, we will break the blue into 2 different bobbins, but I'm just keeping it on 1 bobbin for now. Because the whole point of the intarsia is to make the back look nice and neat, and just carrying over 1 stitch or 2 stitches is not going to disrupt anything, and it's not going to have long carryover chains. You can just stitch over them, especially with this thick yarn. You can just stitch over it and it should hide it pretty well for just one or a couple little spots. So I will go all the way to the end, and then I'm going to turn it, and then I will be on the wrong side, and I'm going to come back when I get to where the stitches start again. Okay, so I've come to the last stitch in that row, and I'll do my 1 turning chain at the end, and oops, don't turn it yet. And then so that's what it should look like. I got my 1 boop, right there, my little stitch at the bottom. Oh, it looks good. And so what you do is whenever we turn, we'll be working on this side. So I'm going to turn it this way, and then whenever I get back to the other end, so turn it this way, and then when I get back to the other end, I will make sure and turn it back this way, and then back and forth. And don't twizzle it all around, because that'll be a problem. So I'll turn it this way, and when you're working on this side, you want to keep the strings on this side instead of throwing them to the back. So just keep them on this side, and you shouldn't have, with the intarsia method, we're not going to have a whole lot going on back here except what's connected to the bobbins. Okay, so I'm back at this stitch here, because now this row is going this way. So I'm back at this stitch right here. It's going to be a black stitch, so we're going to switch over to the black. And I'm going to pull the black from down here, and make sure it's your long one, not your tail, of course. And then we're going to bring it up, finish the stitch. And then what we can do is just, since this is the back side of our, this is the wrong side of our bag, our panel. So this is the wrong side of our panel. So we can stitch over this little float part of the yarn, and then just make sure you're in the correct stitch back here, because our next one goes in this blue stitch right there. So I'm going to, oh, and then make sure you pull your blue from the back to the from the front of your piece to the back side, which is the side facing you right now. And we're going to want to put that over the yarn that you're using at this moment. So over like that. Okay, and then through all that, do your next stitch, which is going to go under the float and through that next blue stitch, or that last blue stitch. Pull it up like that, and then we're going to finish that stitch with the, and we're going to do the same thing, pull the green over and the whole thing over there. So we're going to switch to this color. Oh wait, I have a little piece that I cut off for this little section, because we're going to use this small piece for these 2 stitches, and it's just 2 little stitches. I just already cut off a section, and then this we'll use for the rest of it up here, for the rest of this. So we'll have it all separate. Okay, and it's going to be a little tricky at this bottom point, because we are going to do a little bit carrying over like you would in normal tapestry crochet, and then try and just stitch over the long floater parts of the yarn. It's a little bit tricky, but it's really, I mean, once we get past that part, it'll start to be a little bit easier. And like I said, I'm pulling the blue and the black over at this bottom point, just because there's no point in switching here. But once it starts to get wider, I will split the black and split the blue into 2 bobbins. So for now, we're just on 1 each, And I've got so now we're back right here on this stitch. I just pulled the black through. Now we're going to move to this stitch with the little short piece I cut off, just a short piece because it's just going to be those 2 stitches in this color at the bottom. So this bobbin will just start up further up. So this little piece will just be for this. So, and like I said, for the black, we're just going to carry the black through and try and stitch over it, and instead of dropping it, where later we will drop it and use a separate bobbin. So here's the black stitch. We're going to finish it with the new green color, and it's a little short piece, so just kind of keep track of which little end you're using, and make sure all your ends and stuff are towards the front because this is the wrong side. So I've got my black back here, and I need to pull that back here to this side and then stitch over it. So we're going to be stitching into this black one, and you can just stitch over this black tail part that we're going to pick up in just a second, and pull that, and then it will immediately be going back to the black, and then finish it with the black, and then make sure you got that green that you just left behind, pull it to the front, and we're going to put that over the black like that. Okay, and then go into the next stitch with the black, and then pull, and then we're going to go use the blue. I should have carried the blue through. See, that's where I messed up. Could have been stitching over the blue, but that's okay. We will actually just go ahead and start. I'm going to go ahead and start the next blue bobbin here actually, so that I can keep it a little bit neater in the back while it's at the bottom and complicated anyway. So got the blue I was using. I'm just going to set that to the side over here. I'm going to get out my other blue and start that on this side. I'm going to finish this stitch with the tail in the front with the blue. That front, and then make sure at the black, tighten the black from the back, but we're going to bring it over that blue that we just started like that, so that it'll be coming up for where we need it in the next row. Okay, and then tighten your stuff, tighten that over. So it's going to look pretty crazy, but it's coming together. So we pull, once again, the black tail that we're dropping over the blue that we're starting on now. Go into, make sure you're going into the correct stitch, and then finish off this side. Finish off this side with blue. We'll finish that off, but this is what the back should look like. You can see, and then the front will look like that. See, we could tighten this up because that's where the tail is. So I'm going to tighten that a little bit. Should be right here. Oh no, it's the long one. Okay. Yep, there we go. Tighten that up a little bit back there. That looks good. Nice and neat. All right. And then I will finish this row, and then we're coming back, and so once again we'll return it, and then we will be going this direction, and we are going to be down on this. See, we've done this one, we just did this row. I'm going to finish the rest here, go up, finish this blue, and then I'll come back to right here on this stitch next, this black stitch. So right about here is where my mic died, and I did not know. So the rest of the videos, almost the rest of the videos where I'm doing the graph, there's no audio. So it's just the same thing as the first few rows. I was just mainly wanting to show you the first couple rows because there's a lot of colors right next to each other. So there's a lot of color changing that goes on right away, and it seems to make for a messy tail situation, but it only is really messy at the bottom of the Plumbbob, and at the top you'll see in the middle it's nice and clean, and then the tails weave in, and it turns out really well. And the I used the first one that I made with the 8mm hook. I've used that bag for probably 2 months or 3 months now, and oh gosh, I guess a little bit longer than that. And it is I haven't had any of the tails come out. I haven't had anything get hung or caught on any of the strings on the inside or the yarn on the inside, so it worked out really, really well without any lining. And here I am a little further up on the graph on the other side of the work. Now I'm on the wrong side. And I'm going to pull this black yarn upwards and have that a little bit of a back piece going up, but I'm just going to stitch under it and help it lock it in and kind of cover it with the other stitches so it's not so exposed. And that works pretty well when you're just going a short distance with these 1 to 2 stitches that are going up above each other. And just make sure when you do that, it's going to cover up the stitch that you need to go into a little bit. So just make sure that you're going into the right stitch. And here you see where I'm putting the stitch that I'm pulling forward and dropping over the stitch over the yarn that I'm working with. And the only reason I'm doing that is so that when it's in the stitch, that yarn, that blue tail will be up at the top of the stitch that it's coming out of and not at the bottom. And so it just helps it be a little bit closer upwards in for when you get to the next row. That's really the only reason. I'm not sure if that's a correct method, but that's why I do it. And I seem to have no problems, pulling the yarn and working it upwards in the pattern and hiding the carry overs in the back. So anyway, that's just how it kind of looks going through all of it. See, there's another piece, the green piece and the black piece there. I'm going to go under and make sure I get the correct stitch behind it, but I'm going to go under both of those to sort of cover them with the stitch. And another reason I suggest using Bernat blanket for all of it, for the Plumbbob as well, is because the yarn is the same thickness. Even though this hometown yarn is bulky 6, it still is thinner when you're working with it than the Bernat blanket, so it makes a difference. And it leaves the little, you can see sometimes when I hold it up, I have a little bit gaps in between the stitches in the Plumbbob. It's because I'm pulling everything really tight to be because the Bernat blanket I need to pull tight, but the green hometown is thinner, so I have these little gaps. Not terribly bad, and it doesn't affect anything, but as far as use in the purse, because I've been using it for a while now with no problem, but it's just sort of a visual thing that bugs me. I wish I had been more patient and gotten all the colors in Bernat, and also I probably would have been able to match the colors to the Plumbbob of the graph a little bit better. These colors are a little bit, I don't know, off, and it's just because it's what I had. But I would definitely suggest Bernat blanket for all these types of bags that I do, and for the graphs and everything, because I love that Bernat blanket. So here's what it looks like from the front, about halfway through, looking pretty good. And I'm gonna leave the link down below to a person that I watched that did the intarsia method. That's how I've learned how to do that. So you can check their video out. And there's lots of people that do tons of videos on graph GANs and crochet grids and pixels and everything like that. So there's probably a lot better ones out there than this one. But you can see the how it looks there. The tails are at the bottom, and it's starting to clear up there in the middle because the yarn is, moving upwards. So it's starting to look pretty good back there. And then we will put the panels together and single crochet around to connect them, and then start the strap from one side, and then when you get the strap however long you want, connect it to the other side. I would suggest, since we're just doing a single crochet on the strap, to do it a little bit shorter than you want it to be, because it's going to stretch out just a little bit. All right, I'm finished. It looks really, really cute. I've only done graph crochet a few times, so I wonder if there's anything to be done about the jaggediness of one side and not the other. I don't know, but I like how it came out. Looks really, really cute. Took me forever, but, well, not that long. Once you kind of get in the flow, it's not too bad. And then you can see
you only have the ends on the bottom and the top. This one, just because it was a small stitch, it was one stitch right here, so I just left that one there. But it looked pretty good from the back too, and you can see some of the floats, but they're pretty tight, so I'm not worried about them getting hung on anything. And I will tie my ends really well, tie them and weave them in, so that'll look good on the back, on the inside. And then I'm going to, I left it connected because I'm still, I'm going to use the rest of this blue to stitch around the bag, but I'm going to tie in the ends weave in the ends, and then I'm going to put the words, the lettering down here at the bottom. And I am going to do that with the cross stitch method, so I'll show you that, because I want the letters to be really clear, because they are not English words, they're Simlish words. So I want it to be really, really clear, because it's so that way people can read it, and if you're a Sims fan, you'll know what it means. So I'm going to do those with the cross stitch down here, and I'll show you how I do that. But I'm going to weave in these ends first. Ugh. I got the Plumbbob all weaved in, and it's not perfect, but I got it nice and secure, because that's just going to be the inside of the bag anyway. And of course I don't do liners, so it'll just be free ends just hanging in there, but that's why they're should be pretty secure and just trimmed down short. And now I'm going to cross stitch the words down here, SUL, SUL. Okay, so I'm just going to cut off a long piece of my white, and I'm not going to measure it. I don't want to do all that, so I'm just going to work from the inside out. So I will start with the L here and go this way, and the S here and go this way. That way I can get them even that way. And I will just wing it.
And now all the ends are weaved in, and it's pretty secure. I've been using this bag for months now, and I haven't had any ends come loose or get stuck on anything, so it's been really great on the inside with no liner. And this is the front, really nice and sharp. Now we're just going to single crochet around the outer edge of the 3 sides and leave the top open. Okay, so I've connected the two panels together, and now I've turned it right side out, and I'm just going inside and pushing the seams out from the inside. And it looks really nice and smooth. It feels really cool. Love Bernat blanket. It comes out great every time. And I've left the top open, of course, and I've left the yarn connected to the side where I left off on the seaming it together so that I could start the strap. Now what I'm going to do to make sure that my seam lines up directly in the middle of my strap is I'm going to make my strap 5 stitches wide with 1 turning chain on every row. And to do that, I'm going to do a couple slip stitches over, and that way I can start at the beginning of the 5 stitch row of the strap. So I'm going to slip stitch 1 and 2 over, and that middle seam is going to be its own stitch. So once you get started, it'll be very simple, you can see. So I'm just going to slip stitch over 2 times from where I was, and then I will do a chain right here, and that's my turning chain, and then I'm going to turn it. And here you really want to make sure you get under the slip stitch and into the panel, not just in the slip stitch itself, but in the slip stitch and in the panel, so it almost feels like you're going under 2 separate stitches, but it's the slip stitch in the panel under those 2, and then go in the middle under a stitch or under where the seam comes together, because that's your center, and then do 2 more single crochets after that, and then you'll have a nice uniform 5 stitch wide strap beginning right there, and it blends in seamlessly and it looks really good. So do an extra turning chain, turn it, and now you're good to go. You've got your 5 wide, and you just single crochet back and forth, as long with your turning chain, of course, always add a turning chain, and make the strap as long as you want. And like I said, the strap, you want to make it just a little bit shorter, maybe just a few rows shorter than you think it needs to be, because it is going to stretch out a little bit. Now you have a seamless transition into a strap, and you can just continue on single crocheting 5 across, back and forth until you get the strap as long as you want. Okay, my strap is the length that I want it. Now I'm going to connect it to the other side. Make sure that your strap is not twisted up before you connect it. I have done that. I've probably made every crochet mistake there is to make. And so make sure it's not twisted. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put our 2 right sides together, hold them together, and then we're going to slip stitch them together. And then we're going to stitch that seam more securely with the tail that we have. So put your right 2 sides together. The outer side of your strap is going to go against the outer side of the bag, just like this. So I've got the 2 outer sides are together, and I've got my last stitch from the strap. I did not do a turning chain there, and I'm going to insert the hook into the panel, and I'm just going to pull the yarn through and do a slip stitch. There you go, slip stitch. And then that's not going to count as one of your 5, so that's just going to be your turning, I guess, slip stitch. It just kind of sits there. So there's your first slip stitch, your second slip stitch, and you're going to have to finagle it a little bit in there, push it through a little bit. Your third slip stitch is that's your second. The third one is going to go in that seam, so you're really going to push it under there, and it's just going to be in the middle of the seam, and pull that slip stitch through there. So that's number 3, and then number 4 slip stitch and number 5 slip stitch, and then they will be connected, and it's going to be secure, nice and secure. I've been using mine for months now, and no problems. I never have an issue with my straps when I do them this way. And last slip stitch there, so that's the 5th one, and there she is, she's connected. And then I'm gonna do an extra one here just because I want to get this little edge of the seam like tucked in, I guess I would say. So just kind of use your own judgment there. The Bernat can be a little fluffy, can be a little pokey outy sometimes, so sometimes you just kind of got to work with it and maybe do something a little different to hide it. So I'm going to leave that like that. So I technically did one slip stitch in the turning chain, 5, and then one extra one. So that actually technically has 7 slip stitches. But once we cut the tail and do some sewing, some stitching to weave the end in, we're going to basically do some extra reinforcement with it. That'll you can't tell that the extra slip stitches are there. It doesn't look any different or any wider because it's connected right to the bag there. So I just cut my tail off and I'm just going to kind of stitch it in there. And using that tail, I'll just do a whip stitch over the seam, and then I will weave the tail in back and forth under the stitches. And then at the very end, when I'm done doing that, I'm going to take that tail and push it down in between the stitches of the seam to give it even more security, so that tail does not come out, which it doesn't. It won't come out, and it'll keep the strap nice and secure. And of course, cut all your ends off, trim everything up nice and tight, and that's it. You're done. Got all the letters on, if you did letters, and you should have a nice, soft, beautiful bag. Thank you so much if you made it this far for watching the video. I hope your bag turns out great. I hope you love the chart. Use it for who knows what. Use it for a million other things. I love this little Plumbbob that I made. So please do a million things with it. Just give me credit for it. Bye.